Hello. Been a little while. Been about a month since my last video, and I have been looking at things, thinking of ideas to do. I don't just want to launch straight into another bucket list game, although I do believe I have one lined up. Look for that in the coming months. No, I've been looking into some things lately for a video project I want to do relatively soon, and this video that you're watching has nothing to do with that. This video was more basically a spur-of-the-moment thing, came about while I was researching the thing I actually want to do a couple of videos about later on. So I was digging through my storage room today, actually. I was going to say the other day, but that's just factually inaccurate. And boy, I should do something. I should let people look into my storage room at some point. I should take a camera in there and show you, because Jesus Christ, it's better than it was, but it is floor to ceiling plastic storage boxes of like video game bullshit from like the last 30 odd years. Last 35 years, shall we say. Just mixtures of all types, all systems, all generations. Console and handheld and PC. It's kind of I would describe it as an ordered chaos. It's not a mess, but it's not super well organized either. So it's like just getting through, trying to find specific things can be a bit of a chore sometimes. So while I was going through my back room, I was looking for specific issues of magazines, and ultimately my search was partial failure. I was looking for a very specific issue of magazine that I thought I had, but it turns out I didn't. But while I was in there, I found a couple of others that will serve a similar purpose, and I found this little gem buried deep in the older video game magazine box. This is an issue of, this is why I've got this second camera here. Hello. Issue of Ultimate Future Games from, oh, this camera I'm holding is shit. It's weird. It is the exact same model as the camera that's looking at my face right now. I've got two of them. But for some reason, this one has noticeably worse video quality, and I don't know why. I will not focus on anything, but you have to trust me that says June 1995 up there. Issue 7, June 1995. So this was a relatively brand new publication at time this issue came out. Yeah. And the number one thing on the front, top 100 games of the future. And I thought it would be kind of a neat little one-off video thing here. We could go through this magazine, looking at what was considered by this magazine to be the top 100 games of the future as of June 1995. What is that? June 95. What is that? It's 28 years ago. It's 28 years ago. That's nearly 3 decades. Oh my fucking god. That's messed up. It's messed up. How old would I have been in June 95? I'd have been 7. I would have turned 8 in 95, but June is before my birthday, so I would have been 7. I would have been a couple months before my birthday, so I'd still been 7 years old. So what was I doing when I was 7? Not a lot. What? I think I had a Game Gear. I think I still had my Game Gear. In 95, yeah, in 95 I would have still had my Game Gear, my actual original OG Game Gear, playing some Wonder Boy or some isometric golf. I can't remember what that golf game was. There was a golf game for the Game Gear that was like themed around mini golf, and it was isometric. And it was really cool, and I liked it a lot, and I do not remember what it was called. I think the word putt was in the title? Maybe? Putting Tour? Something? I don't know. I can't remember. I should look that up sometime. That was my favourite, one of my favourite Game Gear games. Okay. Let's look at this. I've got, if you're having trouble hearing me, it's because I'm forced to put the microphone there to my extreme left there. Well, not extreme left, but you know what I mean. So I might sound a little bit distant at times, but I am endeavouring to keep my voice raised so you can hear what I'm saying. For people watching this who don't know what a magazine is, you see, back in the day, video game news, such as announcements, previews and reviews, used to be sold to you on sheets of paper that were bound with either staples or glue. And you would buy these sheets of paper. A bit like a newspaper, but colour. Way more expensive. You know, because 95? Like, when did the internet become legitimately like easy to access for most people? Early to mid 2000s, right? Like 2002, 2003 is when you could expect the average home have some form of computer with internet access, I think. Yeah, but by 95, having, you know, before the internet became completely ubiquitous, you know, and extremely easy to access by almost every person alive, getting online was hard. In the 90s, you had to be relatively well off or be good friends with somebody who was relatively well off or had relatively well off parents, and you had to hope, like beg your parents to buy a computer or hope that your relatively well-off friend had begged his parent or their parents to buy a computer. It was not, you know, there was some hurdles to clear before you could easily access web pages, you know. So for a very long time, even though the internet was totally a thing, magazines were still the main way people consumed information like this, because, you know, not everyone had a computer or even an internet, a computer that had internet access. Also, internet at the time did not really have internet speeds that could justify big, full color, high detail, super high resolution images like this. It's two-page spread ad for Daytona USA. People give the original Daytona USA port for Sega Saturn some serious shit. I kind of, you know, that game, yes, it runs very poorly. It runs at about 15 frames a second. Or 12 if you have the PAL version. But I don't know, it's doing a lot. For a launch Sega Saturn game, that game is doing a lot graphically that other contemporary racing games weren't, in terms of like texture detail and, you know, like environmental detail and stuff like that. Unfortunately, it came at the cost of frame rate, which was maybe in the long term kind of a mistake. What is this ad for? This is, okay, another 2-page ad. This is Fritz. Fritz is a Weimarer. Okay, born with wings. Fritz, apart from flying, Fritz speaks fluent German and Russian. His owner is... I'm sorry about this camera, by the way. This is like the best option I've got. I'm so super sorry. He knows that one day the dog... His owner is very proud and knows that one day the dog will make him rich and famous. Since Fritz is not your dog, maybe you'd better do some serious training to develop the skills and qualifications to lift yourself above the crowd. Oh, this is just... National Vocational Qualifications. NVQs. NVQs. Okay, this is an ad for NVQs. Oh my god, this is incredibly... Like, what? I had to read the small print before I was able to figure out what this ad was even for. So an NVQ, I don't know if they're still a thing. They might be. They are basically post-school education. So like, if you want to continue education after school, even after college, things like that, you can sign up to do NVQ courses. If you want to, like, you know, add to your CV. Here we go. Classic 90s video game magazine here. Very bright colours, bright blues, bright reds, bright yellows. We've got top 100 games of the future, cover feature. Page 22, Gunner's Heaven. Gunner's Heaven is cool. Gunner's Heaven was... Gunner's Heaven, I think, was like the spiritual successor to Gunstar Heroes. I think there were some ex-Gunstar Hero developers working on this. So, among some circles, it's considered an unofficial sequel. PlayStation 1 game, if you're not sure. Fantastically hard to get hold of. You look up copies of Gunner's Heaven. It wasn't called Gunner's Heaven in Europe. It was called something else. But you look up copies of that on eBay, it's fucking ridiculous. It's like, what? I'm not paying that much. No. Original Tekken and Arcadia. We've got a nice 1-page ad there for the Neo Geo CD. Neo Geo CD was SNK's attempt to try and bring the cost of the fantastically expensive Neo Geo down to something that normal people could afford. Or at least the games, because the games were really expensive. The game, you were basically buying like an arcade board in a box. The Neo Geo was basically was an arcade board, an actual arcade hardware in a plastic box that then you would buy these gigantic thick cartridges full of arcade ROMs and then jam those down into it, and it would technically be the arcade experience at home, but it came at an extreme cost. And this was an attempt by SNK to try and bring some of that cost down, because not just the console, but the games themselves were like ludicrously expensive. Like really expensive, like 4 or 5 times the cost of like a PlayStation or a Saturn game. It was like nuts. So it was like, if we can make the games cheaper to manufacture, maybe more people would want to buy a Neo Geo, but it didn't really work out for them. I very nearly bought a Neo Geo CD when I was in Japan about 8 years ago. I went to Japan in 2000, it wasn't 2007. It wasn't 8 years ago. What the fuck am I saying? No, it was 2014. 8 or 9 years ago now. Fuck. Jesus Christ, yeah. They had stacks of them, man. You go into like Super Potato and you just walk into this room and there'll just be a stack of like 12 Neo Geo CDs wrapped in like plastic to keep them safe, to keep them clean, just stacked in the corner. And they weren't that expensive either. I could have bought several, you know. The problem was getting them home. It's like, I don't really want to start throwing away clothes just to make room for a video game console that I'm maybe going to not even enjoy. But it really did cross my mind. I was that close, man. I was like, those Neo Geo CDs are sitting right there and they are not expensive. I should get one, but no, I chickened out. Well, here we go. Top 100 games of the future. Here are 100 reasons to be excited about the future. In less than 4 months, most of the next-gen games we have seen will be in UK shops. Top PC games will hit the super consoles, and there's plenty. It's funny now to hear, like, basically the PlayStation 1, the Sega Saturn, and the 3DO being described as a super console. It's like, oh boy. There's plenty of amazing stuff in production. The ranking of every game featured is based entirely on first impressions, so, you know. So, wow, this is a count up, not a count down. They are starting with 1 and going to 100. Like, they are starting the show with a showstopper. That's not how you do this. I would say that anyone doing a list like this would almost always start with 100 and go down to 1. Like, you don't start with 1. Who was in charge of this article? What is wrong with you? Never start the show with a showstopper. Number 1. Ridge Racer 2, which would end up coming out as Ridge Racer Revolution. Oh, man, you cannot see this text for shit. I'm so sorry. This camera is garbage. I should get a better USB camera. I'm so sorry about this. I'm going to have to read it to you. This will have to be the game. Sorry, this will just have to be the game to be seen playing in 95, 96. Imagine the original Ridge Racer, but with multiplayer link-up, a rear-view mirror, that's a feature, more tracks like 1, dozens of new features and refinements. We believe Japan will be seeing this gem, just before Christmas, and Europe will follow 6 months later. Can you wait that long? We can't. So, in hindsight, Ridge Racer Revolution ends up being kind of a bummer. Because it is an extremely meager, by modern standards, an extremely meager content update over the first game. It is basically Ridge Racer 1 with a couple of extra cars, 1 or 2 new tracks, and like System Link. And that's it. And it's like, if you had already bought Ridge Racer 1, you bought Ridge Racer Revolution, that purchase probably felt bad after a couple days. Like, oh man, this is like a third of a new game. Virtua Fighter 2 is in number 2. Saturn. Virtua Fighter on the Saturn has lifted the machine off right from the start, and we expect VF2's arrival on Sega's next generation console to make even more noise. Japan is sure to see it before Christmas, the UK following sometime during early 96. Roll on Virtua Fighter 3 in the arcades. So these aren't even like confirmed release dates. These are guesstimates. So I would not be surprised if some of these presumed release times are way off. Like, look at some of these like genre names as well. Like, racing game is called Driving. Like, okay, sure. A fighting game is defined as a BT, B-E-A-T-Y. What the fuck does that mean? Like, it's not beat 'em up. No, it's a fighting game. Sucks. Number 3, Ultra Doom. The Ultra 64. That's right. By 95, the N64 was still being referred to as the Ultra 64. So, working title, Ultra Doom. This is the game that would eventually come out as Doom 64. Doom on the Ultra 64. It's bound to be bigger with many more specific levels exclusive to Nintendo's long-awaited machine. There's no doubt that it's going to look so damn good, the blood will be pumping at a faster and smoother rate than ever before. I mean, they're right about the levels. Doom 64 would end up being a completely unique game. Many people consider to be the best of the classic Doom games. I don't know if I would personally join those people, but it is a very good game. Here we go. Street Fighter Zero. If you hate sequels, well, this one's for you. Zero is the prequel to the original Street Fighter, and the characters are looking 10 years younger and fitter. Yeah, Street Fighter Zero. The original Street Fighter Zero. Shall we say a trailblazer? Not the best game in the Zero series, but it had to start somewhere. You don't get to Street Fighter 02 Dash without original Street Fighter Zero. Here we go, down the bottom. Tekken, number 5th place. See the full review in this issue for all the gory details. It's a fist fest with bizarrely proportioned but beautifully texture mapped characters. Did you hear that, Virtua Fighter 1? Texture mapped. Did you fucking hear that? I bet you did. Beautifully texture mapped characters, the kind of game that instantly creates love it, hate it clans, and we adore it. It just pips the original Virtua Fighter. And clearly shows how amazingly well the PlayStation can shift around polygons. So yeah, this was one of the big early PlayStation games that kind of showed, like, that it kind of showed people that maybe the Sega Saturn wasn't it. Like a combination of Tekken 1 and Ridge Racer 1 were just like, you'd look at that and then you're like, that looks fucking awesome. And I guess the original Battle Arena to Shinden, I guess? Sure. Battle Arena to Shinden 1 was one of those games that looked really cool from a distance, but then when you played it, it's like, ugh, I don't want to play this anymore. Yeah, it's like, oof. You'd have Tekken and Ridge Racer and to Shinden on one side of the room, and then you'd look over at the Saturn and it would be like, here's Myst. Here's Panzer Dragoon 1, which, don't get me wrong, Panzer Dragoon 1 is a classic game, but it's not a game that's going to blow people's socks off. When you're looking for pure speed and, like, action, Panzer Dragoon 1 is kind of a very slow-paced game. Like, and what? Like, Baku Baku Animal, which is a really good puzzle game. But it's a puzzle game. 2D puzzle game, you know, and it's like going up against games like Ridge Racer 1 and Tekken and Battle Arena to Shinden. You know, the average teenager, you know where they're going to go. They're going to go towards the PlayStation. Oh, here we go. Wow, there. We're going to speed this up. Here we go. In 6th place, Virtua Fighter, the game that launched the Saturn into orbit. I wouldn't say orbit. Like, maybe mid-atmosphere, definitely below, like, airliner height. The game that launched the Saturn into orbit at Christmas in Japan. If you buy the machine in September, this is the game that you should have to show off its power. Ooh, yeah. And again, what I was saying before, even if you were to add Virtua Fighter to the Saturn's lineup, it's like you look at Tekken and Battle Arena to Shinden, and then you look at Virtua Fighter 1, and you look at Tekken and Battle Arena to Shinden, and then you look at Virtua Fighter 1, and then you very slowly start sidling towards the PlayStation. It's like, oh boy. Oh boy. Number 7, Ridge Racer 1. It's getting dark, and this camera's getting dark. Ridge Racer 1. Next corner's tough. Watch yourself. The next generation was confirmed when we saw Ridge Racer. It's awesome, and you can get a lovely twisty-turny controller. Superb. Is he talking about the NegCon? No, it's not the NegCon. The JogCon. I get mixed up between the NegCon and the JogCon. The NegCon's the controller that twists in the middle. I've got one of those. It's actually really cool. The JogCon was the DualShock with a wheel in the middle. It's like a little analog. It's not really a DualShock. I don't think it even had an analog stick. I think it was just a regular PlayStation controller with rumble, and instead of analog sticks, it had like a twisty analog wheel in the front of it that you could turn like a steering wheel. It was weird. Number 8, Sega Rally. Yeah, this camera sucks. I am sorry. It's on the same board as Daytona and looks very much like it. Well, I mean, they're both Sega Model 2 games, so yeah, I'd imagine it would. It's very much like a rally-like game. A rally-like game. It's literally called Sega fucking Rally. What is rally-like about it? It's a fucking rally game. Just say it's a rally game. What is this rally-like bullshit? Damn it. With power slides and handbrake turns in full effect, and I think Sega Rally is exceptional. Still one of the Sega Saturn's best games. Some people don't like it because it lacks content, but I think what content is there is fucking exceptional. 9th place, Daytona USA. The first ever review of this polygon-filled racer in all its... Polygon Racer is in this very issue. It's got more tracks than Ridge Racer, and the gameplay is superior to most. Will we see the sequel to this sometime this year? Quite possibly only in the arcades. So yeah, like I was saying before, if you were to compare Daytona USA to Ridge Racer, I think when you look at screenshots, Daytona USA is a better looking game, because it's got more going on in terms of track detail, texture maps, you know, stuff like that, like lighting, stuff like that. But it pays the price, really pays the price in terms of frame rate. You've got Ridge Racer, which runs at a completely smooth, perfectly smooth 30 frames a second, no dips at all. And then you've got Ridge Racer, and then you've got Daytona USA, which struggles to maintain 15. It's like, oh boy. In screenshots, Daytona USA looks better, but in motion, Ridge Racer all the way, baby. Here we go. Number 10, Darkstalkers. Plays the same as Street Fighter 2. No, it doesn't. But the moves, characters, and comic backdrops are unique. The humour and classic playability in Darkstalkers is bound to make it a hit on both the Saturn and the PlayStation. So, Darkstalkers 1, the original Darkstalkers, was in many ways the prototype game for what would become Street Fighter Alpha. So, Capcom wanted to go in a more stylistic, like anime direction, like art direction with Street Fighter, but they were nervous about it because to them Street Fighter was their golden goose. They were very scared about making significant changes to the formula, and so that's what the purpose of Darkstalkers was. They made this at the time one-off game which wasn't expected to be successful, and put it out there as like a this is what I remember as like a tester. It's like, will people like this visual style in a fighting game? Will this work? And people fucking ate it up. People loved it. People were like, holy shit, this looks great. So as a result, Capcom went forward with the Alpha series, or the Zero series, I guess. This page is a bit dirty. Doom 2. Doom 2 is due for release on most of the next generation, and it just stops. didn't really have much room there to write anything. Yeah, it's due for release on most of the next generation systems, I imagine. Doom 2 getting short shrift there. Definitely deserved more of a blurb. Let's see, there we go. Battle Arena Toshinden. A game that sold PlayStations, if not necessarily captured your heart. Not quite Virtua Fighter in gameplay. No, it's not. But this baby sure is a good looker. 90,000 polygons per second. Wahey. This is definitely a mid-90s British video game magazine. Wahey. This'll prove the power lurking in the PlayStation is frightening. Certainly was to Sega. Descent. All the blasting thrills of Doom and more. Rescue the humans in an alien hell. The help of power-ups and the hindrance of massive levels. No actual aliens in Descent. It's mining equipment. It's mining robots gone haywire. That's what you're fighting. You're not fighting aliens. The story is all the mining equipment in a big mining complex in an asteroid belt is like becomes self-aware and is like fighting all the human workers and killing them. And you're having to go in and destroy all the mining robots and rescue the survivors. It's a cool game. Descent is a cool game. The PlayStation version is very good. Clockwork Knight 2. Twice the size of the original, that's not difficult. Knight 1 was kind of a short game. We're hoping Clockwork Knight 2 can avoid any of its disappointing shortfalls. Clockwork Knight 2 is the Pandemonium. Clockwork Knight is basically Pandemonium, but before Pandemonium. But not as good. And when you consider that Pandemonium itself is kind of a mediocre game, maybe that's, gives you a hint. Killer Instinct for the Ultra 64, number 15. First games to come out when the Ultra 64 hits the streets of Japan later this year. Killer Instinct is kicking. Play the game in the arcade and you'll know what we mean. The best looking 2D beat 'em up yet. Again, referring to fighting games as beat 'em ups. What is wrong with you? Rage have come up trumps again. What? Rage have come up trumps again. What? I don't understand that last sentence. That makes no sense. Unless they mean rare. That's that's got to be a typo. That's got to be a typo. Someone's hit the G key instead of the R key. They meant to say Rare have come up trumps again, because Killer Instinct is a game developed by Rare. They've accidentally typed Rage, probably because, I don't know, they were thinking of Primal Rage, maybe? The other fighting game to feature, sort of, but not really, 3D characters. That's funny. We've got a typo, our first typo. Oh, here we go, Primal Rage. This is probably what's done it. He's probably editing this and he's gotten the words Primal Rage stuck in his brain. And when he's editing this, he goes to type Rare and accidentally types Rage because there's a word stuck in his brain. I see. Number 16, Primal Rage. The little plasticine Jurassics leap, crawl and scream their way from the arcade to the home. Top gore-soaked moves. I'm not really personally a fan of Primal Rage. It is a neat-looking game, but it's no fun to play. It's just not fun to play. I'm sorry. Suikoden. Second beat 'em up. To use the STV board means a Saturn port Port over will be quick, hopefully by the end of May. So yes, this game did come to Saturn, but only in Japan and America. There is no European release of this game. It's a good game though. It's good. It is a decent mid-tier 2D fighting game. So we'll get to the end of this page and then we'll start picking up some speed because we're over 35 minutes in now and we've only just reached number 17, so let's get going. Number 18, Panzer Dragoon. Nothing to do with tanks. This has graphics and animation like we've never seen before, but it's too damn easy. Is it? I don't know, man. Level 5 is pretty fucking hard. Were you playing on easy? Because if you play on easy, the game only gives you the first 3 levels. Yeah, this was in that era of games when games would punish you for turning down the difficulty level. You wouldn't get either a proper ending or even the full game if you played on easy. I remember Street Fighter 2 straight up denies you an ending cutscene if you beat it on easy. Because you played it on easy. It says, yo, fuck you, you played this on easy. Play it on hard. Play it on a harder difficulty to look at the ending. It's like, fuck you, Street Fighter. And yeah, Panzer Dragoon, another game like that. The game has 5 levels. If you play it on easy, you only get to play the first 3. Yeah. Okay, number 19, Cruisin' USA. The first Ultra 64 racing game. Williams is classic. It's fast, furious, and set in the streets of America. Choose a Ferrari and spend time exploring the hidden tracks. Okay. Cruisin' USA was a very popular arcade game at the time. It's funny to see the ordering of this in hindsight and to know that a lot of the games that are very high up on the list would end up being very, in hindsight, would be very poorly thought of. For example, Virtua Fighter 1 and Daytona USA. And yet all the way down the list, far, far, far below them, below Primal Rage, of all fucking games, the original Wipeout. I don't know if you might not understand the importance of Wipeout. Wipeout is pretty fucking important. That's a very, very important game to this entire generation of consoles. Wipeout kind of... It is one of the main reasons many people, at least in Europe, bought a PlayStation. You take the role of one of the brave pilots of the F3600 Racing League, where a mistake can be fatal. Head-to-head 2-player racing joy ahoy. What? Okay. Virtua Striker. So Virtua Striker... Huh. I think Virtua Striker came out in Europe. I think it was renamed. It was renamed to... I don't remember what they were renamed to, but they did not come out as Virtua Striker. I know there was the Victory Goal games, which were very popular in Japan. And Virtua Striker was meant to be the successor to Victory Goal. Then they ended up... As far as I know, the first Virtua Striker... I don't think that ever technically came to systems? I don't know. Because there were 2 polygonal Sega-developed football game / soccer games for the Saturn, but they weren't called Virtua Striker, they were called something else. They had dates after them, 97 and 98, but I don't remember what they were called. Like Sega Professional Soccer or something? SPS? I'm probably wrong. I'm probably wrong. Because we got one Victory Goal game, and then those 2, the 2 that came afterwards. Like, they were not called Virtua Striker. I don't remember their actual names, but oh well. I don't think we would actually get a game called Virtua Striker outside of Japan until the Dreamcast with Virtua Striker 2. I think. Oh no, I'm going sideways. I should be going down. Whoops, that was 21. Oh no, I am. Losing track of where I am. Here we go. Cyber Commando, not to be released in European arcades, the superb sequel to Cyber Sled. Oh, okay. For a second I thought it was Cyber Sled, but no, this is an actual sequel. It's still on the cards for the PlayStation, for the PSX. Should be a better conversion than the original. Never played Cyber Sled. I've heard it's okay. Alone in the Dark 3. Woof. The first episode is now appearing on the 3DO, and the much superior third could be moving 32-bitwards very soon. I don't think Alone in the Dark 3 ever came to a console. I think Alone in the Dark 3 is computer only. I don't think there was ever a console port of Alone in the Dark 3. One, like you said, one was on the 3DO, and there was a version for Amiga and PC, maybe Atari ST, I don't know. 2 came out on PlayStation and Saturn. No, there was no port of Alone in the Dark 3. Shinobi X, 24th place. The original classic jumps bunny-like into next gen with glorious visuals and promised slick sword-slashing gameplay. Shinobi X is fucking cool. Shinobi X is a good game. Shinobi X is fantastic. It is a cool game. If you like Revenge of Shinobi or Shinobi 3 for the Mega Drive, Shinobi X is good. Shinobi X plays just like Shinobi 3. People like goof on it because it's got digitized graphics, but it's fucking it's cool. It's cool as fuck. The game's good. Ace Driver, Racing Evolution by Namco for the PlayStation. The idea of Formula 1 has been done before. It's been done before. And it'll be done again. As long as it's a popular sport, people will keep doing it. Who the fuck is this man writing? The idea of Formula 1 has been done before. In fact, many, many times before. But they've never quite looked as dreamy as this. Borad shading has never moved so fast. Air Combat 22. Currently wowing the Japanese arcade goers, this is one of a heady batch of games Namco are bringing to the home. Is this Ace Combat? Is this a game? Is this the game that will eventually become Ace Combat? Is that what I'm looking at? I would not be surprised. Okay, it's time to move. It's time to move. Okay. We've got individual top 10s here per journalist on the sides of the pages, but we're not going to bother with those because it's really important. We are most interested in what is considered the consensus between all of them, right? 27th place, Virtual Hide-Lide. Ugh. People who don't know, Virtual Hide-Lide is garbage. It's doing some interesting things tech-wise. At the time, it was doing some interesting things tech-wise. Again, for people who don't know, Virtual Hide-Lide is an open-world fantasy RPG that is randomly generated. I mean, certain aspects of it are randomly generated. The world map is randomly generated, and some of the dungeons are, I should say, procedurally generated. Random generation and procedural generation are very different things. I should say procedurally generated. So yeah, Virtual Hide-Lide is a procedurally generated open world fantasy RPG. Imagine if Skyrim had a mode where you could procedurally generate a new world map every time you started a new game. Imagine that. That would be wild, right? That would be insane. A completely new landmass to explore every time you started a new character. So that is really cool. I will give it that. I will give it that. And it is fully texture mapped. It is true open world. It is fully texture mapped. Fully texture mapped world. But it looks like garbage. It looks terrible. It is one of the ugliest games on the Saturn. It is incredibly ugly. And it runs at about 15 frames a second, if that. I would say even lower. I would say 10. It runs at about 10 frames a second. And very often, very, very often, in fact, it'll actually dip down into the mid single digits. This is a very, very poorly performing game. Virtual High Glide it's very ambitious, but it looks terrible and it plays terrible. I'm sorry, Virtual High Glide. You're a bad game. Let's see, 28. FIFA Soccer for the 3DO. Oh, hang on, let me read the blurb for Virtual High Glide first. On going to press, the 3D heaven of High Glide has just been exposed in Japan. A full-on into the screen, he means third person, RPG with a stocky chap, swampy landscapes, crazy mazes, and giant wasps. Ahoy. FIFA Soccer for the 3DO. What future does FIFA have? Well, FIFA 95 could be making an appearance on 3DO, and if not, you can sing your favourite footy song into light when 3DO's M2 upgrade invites a faster, slicker version. The M2, which was the working title for the successor to 3DO, it would never come out. It would never happen. The problem is a lot of 3DO games were developed with the idea that they would be backwards compatible with a more powerful system. And so you ended up with a lot of 3DO games that ran very poorly, but with the expectation that if the next one came out and people bought the next one, those existing games would work and run better on them. That was the main one of the primary excuses for the 3DO version of Doom. That game runs like shit, but theoretically, if the M2 3DO were to come out, that game would run acceptably, but yeah. A-Train. 29. A-Train, one of the best Anorak God Sims. He says, can't see it because this camera's shit. But Anorak God Sim. Anorak. A-N-O-R-A-K. Anorak. God Sims yet. Not quite what you'd expect to see on a super console when it hits the UK. So A-Train is like, in some ways, A-Train is the father of modern city builders games. Like A-Train was, honestly, A-Train came out before SimCity 2000. I should look that up. Hang on. I shouldn't make a statement like that without backing it up. Hang on. Let me just. Yeah, A-Train. The isometric perspective of A-Train was... Yeah, shit. Originally came out on computers in 1990. So yeah, this beats Hang on. Yeah, this beats SimCity 2000 by 3 years. A-Train, yeah, the isometric perspective, like city builder. It's not really a city builder. You're not building an entire city. You're primarily focused on building like a transport network for a city, but the bones are there. The bones are there. SimCity 2000, I've heard that, yeah, the style, the isometric style of SimCity 2000 was based entirely on A-Train. Somebody at Maxis was playing a lot of A-Train and was like, we should make the next SimCity isometric, like A-Train. So yeah, A-Train has... It is a very important game, you know. This is the game that SimCity copied. I'm not saying it was the first city builder, it wasn't. But it definitely, you know, SimCity 2000 would not have looked the way it did without A-Train. Okay. Clockwork Knight, ick. Gross. Game is too slim. The platform games on CD need to be huge. This one isn't, but it looks bloody gorgeous. I want to like the Clockwork Knight games. I really do. They're just... they're just not fun for me to play. I just don't think they're fun. I think they're very... They're very kitsch. If I'm using that word correctly. No, I'm not using that correctly. No, kitsch means bad. Kitsch means bad things. No, I do not mean kitsch. What's the term I mean? When something is like overly cutesy. Something is like overly... Oh, you know, it's like overly cutesy, like overly... It's trying too hard to make you like it. It's trying too hard. And it's not a fun enough game to just, yeah, no. Siberia, 31. Interplay are beginning to pick up a solid reputation for top interactive games, and Siberia's high-speed action was made for the mighty PSX. Siberia is an FMV game. A lot of people were tricked by screenshots of Siberia. A lot of people were tricked by this game. You look at the screenshot and you think, okay, that's like a relatively low detail, flat shaded polygonal, you know, flat shaded polygonal sort of thing. This looks like this is probably running in real time. It's got a pretty close up fog wall. Yeah, this looks like this could run at real time on a PlayStation. It's fucking FMV. Almost the entire game is FMV, and it's something. Boy, it is something. It's not a good game. We should look at Siberia at some point. This game is ended up coming to PlayStation and Saturn. Since it's an FMV game, I should probably boot up the PlayStation version, because the PlayStation just does slightly better quality FMV than the Saturn. Yeah, this game's fucking weird. Not good, but weird. 32. This game's called Hell. I've never heard of it before. Game tech. The aim of the game is to win a fight with the Prince of Darkness himself. It's a cyberpunk thriller. It looks gorgeously dark and hell-like. Is this an adventure game? It seems like it could be like an adventure game. Did this game come out? I have no idea what this is. This could be anything. Anyway. Number 36. Oh, no, sorry, no, number 33. Going to the next page for some reason. Virtua Racing. It's been out on the 32X, but we want the Saturn version. The bits we've seen so far look wonderful, but you'll have to wait until the autumn. So, Virtua Racing for the Saturn. Remember what I said about how the original Daytona USA for the Saturn put all of its eggs in the wrong basket? It went for visual fidelity instead of frame rate. And therefore the game kind of plays terribly because the frame rate is so bad. Virtua Racing is the opposite. Virtua Racing, by the way, the Saturn version of Virtua Racing was not developed in-house at Sega, if you can believe that. Sega did not develop it's the Saturn version of Virtua Racing, which is nuts because it's its own fucking game. This game ended up getting shopped out to Warner Interactive, if I remember correctly. Warner Interactive did Virtua Racing for the Saturn. And it is a difficult to explain port. It is technically the best version of Virtua Racing up to that point in terms of content and frame rate and resolution. Like the original Mega Drive Virtua Racing ran at 15 frames a second. Virtua Racing on the 32X ran at 20, but it looked a little bit better. And it had more tracks. Virtua Racing on Saturn will run at 30. And it has way more content than either two versions of the game. A lot more content. But it's visually... like I said, it went the opposite direction as Daytona USA. They went all, okay, we're going to simplify all the visuals, keep everything flat shaded, keep everything simple looking to make sure the frame rate is up. And then they ended up putting out a game that looked like it was a game that looked like it came from like 1992. It's like they could not catch a fucking break, you know. They put out a game that is visually very impressive but runs like crap, and then they put out a game that runs fantastically but visually is very basic, and it's like very disappointing for people who wanted something a bit more, you know, something with a few more, you know, bells and whistles on it. In terms of detail, I would say this game looks very similar to the 32X game, maybe a little bit better than the 32X game. Yeah, it's nah. Like even Ridge Racer 1 is a more visually complex game than this version of Virtua Racing, which is a shame. I like Virtua Racing. It finds itself on the wrong side of history a lot, which is a shame. 34, Mortal Kombat 3. Again, Mortal Kombat 3, one of the most beloved fighting games in history, and it's relegated to 34th place. Gee, below Siberia. Fucking below Virtual Hyderlide. What? What? The third in this oh-so-hyped series of brutal again calling fighting games beat-em-ups, don't do that, is looming, probably the most talked-about game ever. Just look on the internet, if you've got a computer. Choked with rumours of its pomposity. What? Is that a word? Pomposity. 35. Magic Carpet. Bullfrog's top PC blasting romp with gameplay that feels like it's taking place in a pre-rendered intro sequence. Maybe. Magic Carpet is a cool game. It's a very misunderstood game. Again, it's another game from history that gets like shit on a lot because of how it looks. Magic Carpet is doing incredible things for the time. There's like full-on terrain manipulation. There's like a very detailed damage model. You can burn down forests, pockmark mountains with craters. You can like scorch and scar the landscape in that game in a way that no other game before it, and very few games since, have like matched. It is a very, tech-wise, it is a very impressive game, but it's not super duper fun to play, and the main reason is the draw distance. The game's draw distance is not super far. I get it. But that was the price of innovation back then. Games, you couldn't have everything, like especially draw distance. At the time, early 3D games, like draw distance was the #1 thing that usually got slashed. One of the most costly things was pushing the draw distance out. One of the most costly things to your performance was a fully rendered distant object, It's like, no. Almost always the first thing that gets cut off is the draw distance. Like, no, the #1 thing we do to save performance, the first thing we do, let's bring that draw distance in, baby. It's the first thing we do. Magic Carpet is a cool game that, again, landed on the wrong side of history for a lot of people. It's like, oh. I don't know. The tech, the engine that powers Magic Carpet, the technology that powered this game, would go on to be used in games like Populous 3, Dungeon Keeper, Theme Park World, like lots of like Bullfrog games in the coming generation. It's actually a very it's a very heavily used engine. Here we go. 36. Slam City. Do you like your FMV basketball games? Anyone? Anyone? No one? Okay. Scottie Pippen's very own basketball sim. This is a one-on-one slam dunk game which you play against a number of challengers. Yet to be convinced about this one. Then why'd you put it so high on the list? Soulstar X. We're looking forward to the silicon graphic design spacecraft and the fractal generated 3D terrains. It's been on the Mega CD, but the 32X version should help the platformer's cause. Did Soulstar X come out? I don't know. I don't think this 32X version of Soulstar would end up coming out. I don't think this came out. I think this got cancelled. I think this got cancelled. Yep. I'm 90% sure this version of Soulstar got cancelled. Well, Poppin' Twinbee. 38. What an addictive blast frenzy. It's dangerous. We've seen grown bearded men reduced to sleepless nights. Okay. Poppin' Twinbee is a cool game. It's a good mid-90s, what was referred to at the time as a cute 'em up. Just a bullet hell shooter with really cute visuals, basically. This is Lodestar. Trains in space, cybertrucks and other sci-fi objects. You basically have to escape from things. Right. Very descriptive. Shooting at you from all over the place in your very special and incredibly fast train. It's peppered with atmosphere and soaked in FMV. You can expect next-gen versions to appear very soon. I've never heard of Lodestar. I've never heard of this game. X-Men Children of the Atom. Having been recently announced that it will be hitting the home systems in late 95, this already displays the Capcom seal of quality. Loads of special powers, oodles of attacks, and the chance to play Akuma against all your favourite Saturday morning superheroes and supervillains. Top stuff indeed, and one of our most awaited games. Then why is it at number 40? It's one of our most awaited games. Not anticipated, not eagerly awaited, just awaited. According to this magazine, X-Men Children of the Atom is one of the games ever made. According to this magazine. People who know, obviously, X-Men Children of the Atom is like the game that would originally give birth to the Capcom Versus series. You know, it all started with X-Men Children of the Atom. It all began here. It was X-Men versus Children of the Atom. Then it was X-Men versus Street Fighter. Then Marvel Superheroes. Then Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter. Then then Marvel Superheroes versus Capcom. Then Marvel versus Capcom 2 and so forth. This is where it starts. Right here. Okay. Legion of the Undead has been possibly given the most unflattering screenshot I have seen in this article yet. It's an incredibly poorly textured green wall with a low resolution sprite of a skeleton standing in front of it. Honestly, there's not much more to see than what you can see on the camera. It's really, there's not really any detail here that you're missing. This is a terrible screenshot. Oh my god. Legion of the Undead for the Jaguar by Atari. Doom and more Doom, but in a fantasy style. Legion is going to be very different, but does that translate as crap? We are less than halfway down this list and we're already starting to get negative appraisals. My god. Burnout for the Jag CD. Road Rash Wannabe, which is distressingly fast. Okay. Wing Commander 3. PC Mags rave on and on about Wing Commander 3, but it's nothing to dribble about uncontrollably. You like flying and shooting? You'll like Wing Commander 3. Lovely intro, though. It's like, okay, it's weird. A little bit of weird there. Like, console games journalist feeling like he has to talk down to the PC ports, does he? Like, okay. PC gamers like this game, so I'm contractually obliged to be rude about it. I'm like, oh, okay, buddy, sure. Pretty sure Wing Commander 3 was one of the last good Wing Commander games. People like Wing Commander 3, I think. It's one of the FMV ones, isn't it? 3 and 4 are the FMV ones. Has this one got Mark Hamill? I think 3 has Mark Hamill. Here we go. Dark Forces, a Star Wars and Doom sandwich. The game style is essentially Doom with a drop more strategy. Is it? And you get to blast away members of the Imperial Army. Dark Forces is sick. Dark Forces is a great Doom clone. It's a really good Doom clone. It's, yeah, Dark Forces is great. Deserves to be higher on the list. Okay, here we go. No, hang on, we not. Oh no, I haven't finished this page yet. What am I doing? 45. Quarantine for PC. It's Doom again, but on wheels. Drive a cab around a futuristic city and run over and shoot any bugger that gets between you and a fare. I think I know what this game is. I want to say this game did come out, but it wasn't called Quarantine, it was called something else. Was it called Death Taxi? Is there a game called Death Taxi? Hang on. There is an old mid-90s DOS game. Hang on. No. No, apparently, no, I was wrong. It is called Quarantine. It did come out as a game called Quarantine. I'm thinking of a different game. Death Taxi 3000 is a different game. It's a very similar game, but very different, but a different game. Yeah. Yeah, this game came out as Death Taxi. I might be thinking of a Japanese release. I want to, again, this is my hazy memory talking here, but I think there was a port of this game to the Sega Saturn that only came out in Japan. There are a ton of weird ports of PC games to the Sega Saturn that only came out in Japan. Loads of them. Like adventure games, like a lot of DOS games that didn't get released anywhere else other in the world, other, on a system, but it got like a weird Saturn port for Japan, like Zork. There's a version of Zork for the Sega Saturn that only came out in Japan. There's Darkseid. Darkseid 1 and Darkseid 2 came out for the Saturn in Japan. I swear this game did. I swear this game came out for the Saturn in Japan, but not under the name Quarantine, under a different name. Oh well. Here we go. 46, Art of Fighting. Not strictly a game of the future, but certainly a game that is giving a well-needed boost to the Neo Geo's future. Maybe a bit bland and dated compared to other arcade conversions. Yeah, in the 90s, you tended to see a lot of, like a lot of criticism towards games that were still 2D. Towards games that were 2D, and, because at the time, it was like, the future is polygons. If your game's not pushing polygons, you're in the past, man. You're old news. Get out the way, Grandpa! Like that sort of attitude. It was fucking awful. It was noxious. It was unpleasant. And so many really cool 2D games were being insulted by magazines like this just because they were 2D, and it was fucked up. That might be the reason why games like X-Men Children of the Atom and Art of Fighting are so far down the list. Even A-Train, there's like a weird little... Yeah. Not the kind of game you'd expect to see on a super console when it hits the UK. It's like, you're saying that because it's 2D, aren't you? That's why you're saying that. Fuck you. Yeah. I think I've mentioned this before, but one of the most notorious examples of this was when, Castlevania games were getting, announced for PlayStation and N64. People were like, the PlayStation Castlevania game looks like it belongs on a Super Nintendo. What the hell is Konami doing? It's 2D, gross. And then you'd get screenshots of what would prove to be fucking awful Castlevania 64, and then they're just fawning over it. Oh my god, it looks so good. Oh, yes, this is the future of Castlevania. And it's just like, Jesus fucking Christ, if only you dumbasses could have known. If only you could have known what asses you are making of yourselves right now. Ugh, embarrassing. Number 47, the original Alone in the Dark. Ported over from the PC original, this excellent adventure game is a welcome addition to the 3DO's collection. Okay. Corpse Killer for the 3DO. All FMV'd up, this game is your only chance to be part of a 5-man Navy SEAL team. Corpse Killer I don't think Corpse Killer ever got a European release. That's a game that came out for the Mega CD, well, the Sega CD, technically, because it came out for the Sega CD and the Saturn, but only in America. I don't think the 3DO version got a European release either. Okay. Cosmic Carnage for the 32X, woof. Choose from 8 frightening chaps with a fit to bursting with stacks of special moves. Yes, very, very descriptive there. Magazine. The quality of the information in these magazines was not always the highest. Cosmic Carnage is garbage. Do not play Cosmic Carnage. Creature Shock. What kind of game? It's an adventure game, apparently. You are this incredibly hard space commando, Geezer, whose job is to deal with you. It says Geezer. 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 Whose job is to deal with the usual space scum who hang around Saturn, the planet, mind you. Number 1, you got the original Cyber Sled, which is a simple but well-liked game. Flashback, which is an all-time classic. The fuck? I'm not making this up when I read this. This game has nothing to do with the future. It's old! Exclamation mark. Get it out! Ellipses. But there are some really cool rendered cinematics. This is the era we're talking about, people. This is the era when, like, Flashback, one of the most, like, influential and beloved, like, action platformers ever fucking made. And they're ready to throw it out like it's crap. Like, ugh, this is old. Get rid of it. Ugh, gross. Motherfucker, you put Virtual Hydolide at number 27. You don't get to say shit. Oh my god. They consider the only good thing to say about this the newly added FMV scenes, which I'm assuming are replacing the real-time vector animation cutscenes, which in my mind are way more impressive, but okay, sure. Fuck me, man. 90s game journalists fucking sucked. Boy. Go. 53, Gex, the 3DO's very first platform game, and God has it been delayed. Over 450 frames of animation for the character, more levels than most sane people can handle, and power-ups galore. We want it now. The original Gex. Patient Zero. The biggest criminal. Gex. Gross. Gex. The Gex franchise is another series that gets a lot of, I don't know. People are either overly harsh or overly enthusiastic about it. People are like, ugh, Gex, they're the worst games ever made. Or they're like, oh my god, Gex, they're so underrated. They're so amazing. And it's like, dude, they're just kind of like average and boring, like, platformers. Like, they are among the most 5 out of 10 3D platformers you could ever fucking play. Like, they're okay at best. They're not terrible, but they're not amazing either. Like, am I the only sane person left alive when it comes to opinions on Gex? Like, please stop, everyone. Okay. 54, Fight for Life for the Jaguar. Polygon Punch Fest. Not a million miles away from Virtua Fighter, there's even a kickboxing starlet. Okay. I don't think... Did Fight for Life come out? I don't know. I don't really have a huge... I don't know that much about Atari Jaguar history. I know that in the late days, a lot of games got cancelled. Like, games that were finished or almost finished just got cancelled. Space Griffin VF9. I've never heard of this. More of those metallic car park antics with stinking great stomping robots. Not that much fun at all, really. Okay. I can't really confirm or deny his words because I've never heard of this game, let alone played it. Space Griffin VF9. Would not be surprised if this was Japan only, or if it came out eventually under a different name. Don't know. Hover Strike for the Jaguar. Hovercraft-based shoot-'em-up in a polygon valley. That's all they have to say about it. Cool. Keyleak, the Blood. A Doom-like adventure, can we really say that again? With endless corridors and not very scary monsters at all. Very smooth texture mapping mind. Yeah, Keyleak the Blood. It was a very early PlayStation 1 first-person shooter that has a lot of similarities. A lot of similarities to an early Sega Saturn first-person shooter called Daedalus. I can't remember. Is it called Daedalus? Hang on. I have a copy of the Saturn game. It's very similar, in fact. Hang on. Daedalus. Sorry. With you in a moment. Robotica. It came out as Robotica. I think Daedalus was the working title or the Japanese title when it ended up coming out in the West as Robotica. Yeah. I remember a lot of people comparing these two games. It's just like, this is basically the same fucking game. Like, what? How did we get these games, two games by two development teams for two different consoles under two different names that are almost exactly the same in terms of visual style? Like, yeah, it's you should look up gameplay for Keyleak and then gameplay for Robotica. And it's just like, wow, okay. I'm amazed no one got sued. Kingsfield 2. Brilliant 3D and impressive texture mapping in this Dungeons and Dragons type game save the world from the Master of Evil, and the only way to find him is through the twists and turns of the Kingsfield. So do you think this is actually... Do you think this is like the Japanese Kingsfield 2 they're talking about, or the European or American Kingsfield 2? Because Kingsfield 1 never actually made its way to Europe or America. Kingsfield 1 stayed in Japan. When Kingsfield 2 came to Europe and America, it was just called Kingsfield. And then Kingsfield 3 came out as Kingsfield 2. So I'm wondering, are they actually talking about... It's 95, middle of 95, so there's a good chance here they're actually talking about the real Kingsfield 2, not Kingsfield 3. Huh. Interesting. Metal Jacket. More big metallic robots. You have a choice of 8. Wander around a gorgeous environment, laying bombs for each other. I would not call it a gorgeous environment. I've played Metal Jacket. There's nothing about the environment in that game that can be called... It can be called gorgeous. Also, like, yeah, so you're using a screenshot here from Metalhead, which is a 32X game. Wait, am I thinking of the right game? Hang on, I'm getting mixed up. I have played an old PlayStation mech game with metal in the title. I don't remember if it's Metal Jacket. It's very possible I'm talking out of my arse and I have not actually touched this game. All I know is that they are for sure using a screenshot from Metalhead up here, which is a 32X game. Which is rude. You are trying to pass off a 32X game as a PlayStation game. Bad. Bad journalists. Don't do that. Just say you don't have a screenshot. Oh my god. Motortoon GP. It's cute, smooth, and at first you'd be excused for thinking the game is the best thing ever. After a few tracks, though, you'll probably get a tad bored of the whole thing. So Motortoon GP is an interesting game. It is the very first game developed by Polyphony Digital. I think it's Polyphony Digital? It is Polyphony Digital, isn't it? Yeah, Polyphony. The developers of Gran Turismo. So this is the game they made before the original Gran Turismo. It's like we're seeing a lot of very early like steps from like legendary developers here. Kingsfield, like we know who From Software would end up becoming, right? One of the most revered developers in the world. From Software. Very, very simple start. Those Kingsfield games on the PlayStation 1, they're very rudimentary. Polyphony Digital, you know, like the creators and still main developers of Gran Turismo franchise. One of Sony's most like highest budgeted and most prestigious franchises that they still support today. This is their first game. Oh, here we go. Victory Goal. This is what I was talking about. This could end up being called Saturn Soccer or something completely different. No, it came out as Victory Goal, at least in Europe. And it gets an official UK release during October. Admittedly, a bit disappointing. Victory Goal is fun. It's very silly. It's very arcadey, and it has a insane like. I think the Japanese version of Victory Goal has like an insane soundtrack. It's got like a fully vocalized theme song of a man like very, very passionately singing Victory Goal. It's like, it's wow. It's like, unfortunately that song got taken out of the European version, I think. At least I don't think it's in. It's been a long time since I've played this game. You should look up the Victory Goal song. It's funny. It's like, wow, okay. 62. King of Fighters 94. Next time around, we could be looking at King of Fighters 95. The Neo Geo CD console is made for beat-em-up fans. And games like this only serve to highlight this fact. Yep. Striker for the 3DO. Still very doubtful that this will ever get released in Europe. There is a game called Striker for the Saturn. I don't know if it's the same game. I think it's called Striker 96 or something. It's not a good game. It's among one of the worst football/soccer games for the system. It's fucking awful. But it does exist. I want to say there is definitely a Striker game for the Saturn. I think it came out as Striker 96. Oh, Myst. I want to talk about, you know, classic, incredibly influential games. The PC classic adventure game makes it onto PlayStation and 3DO, and it looks lovely. The game itself is packed with puzzles and gorgeous scenery. So, yeah, Sunsoft would do the console ports of Myst. I've never played the 3DO version of Myst. I'm sure it's okay. I know for a fact that the PlayStation version of Myst is a mess. The PlayStation version of Myst, it looks better. It renders its images at a higher resolution than, say, the Saturn version does. But the PlayStation version of Myst is incredibly unstable. It crashes a lot. It is crash heavy, it is crash-tastic, whether it's emulator or real hardware. I've played this game on PS1, PS2, PS3, and multiple emulators, and it has crashed regularly on all of them. This is a very poorly optimized version of Myst, if you can believe it. If such a thing can even exist. PlayStation version of Myst is it. Here we go. 65. Powerful Family. Why is this scroller called Powerful Family? Why? Why not? It's awesome. Great name. Stop being so fucking negative. Jesus. I don't know what this is. Incredibly blurry screenshot they have provided is not really giving me much. No. Raiden Project. The classic arcade shooter is perfectly ported over to Sony's 32-bit wonder. You can even turn the telly on its side to get the full-on vertically scrolling game. Does knacker your box after a while. Does it? I don't think it does. I don't think CRT televisions really care that you turn them on their side. I don't think that's a thing. I think you've made that up, journalist. I think you've just made that up. Astle for the Sega Saturn. Clockwork Knight looked lovely, but it was a bit shallow. Astle looks bloody brilliant and promises to be quite deep in that special depth kind of way. Astle is, unfortunately, a game that never made it to Europe. It got released in America, but never got a European version, which is a fucking crime, because Astle is a wonderful game. Okay, we are, coming close to the end now. Let's start going. Number 68, Samurai Showdown 2, great game. Number 69, the Scottish Open. Can't really say much about this, it just kind of looks like a generic golf game, I don't know. Number 70, Return Fire, good game. Number 71, the Super Sidekick 3, never heard of it. Number 72, number 72, Discworld. Discworld, the Discworld adventure games are good adventure games. Okay, I should preface this by saying the first two Discworld games are very good adventure games, but terrible, terrible Discworld games. The Discworld is based upon a franchise of fantasy novels written by Terry Pratchett. They are almost to a book, fantastic. There's a couple of weird ones, but any long-running series, that's just normal. The Discworld games are good, generic fantasy point-and-click adventure games. If you are a fan of the books, they will drive you insane. There is so much stuff that is the plot of the first two Discworld games are basically, let's take the plot from 3 or 4 different books and just kind of smush them together into what is basically a non-canon mess. If you care about the canon of the books at all, these games will drive you insane. These games are not canon. The third game, however, Discworld Noir, is both a very good adventure game and a very good Discworld game, as it's entirely canon and has an originally written script by Terry Pratchett, which the first 2 games do not. They are made up on the fly by the people developing them. That is all I have to say. I am ending this rant. I'm sorry. Oh, just let you know, there's also an insult here. They are insulting the games because they're 2D. Nice touch. Nice conduct there, journalist man. 73, Supreme Warrior. This is the closest you'll get into an interactive martial arts movie. Plenty of FMV and spitting noises. Charming. Supreme Warrior is bad. 74, G-Police. Complete a tour of duty in the G-Police, investigating the mysterious disappearances of your sister, Cyber Stuff. G-Police is excellent. G-Police is an all-time great original PlayStation game. This deserved to be higher on the list. Ultimate Parodius. 75. Arcade perfect with better sounds than the coin-up, but still suffering from slowdown. Good cutesy 2D scrolling action. You didn't insult this one, 90s game journalist. Why didn't you insult this one? It's lower on the list, and it's a completely 2D game. Why didn't you insult it the way you insulted Discworld? Fuck you, 90s video game journalist. 76, Micro Machines 2. Fantastic game. This is heading for the CDI and is likely to turn up on the 32-bit beasts. It doesn't look much, but it's damn addictive. Micro Machines 2 would not come to the PlayStation or the Saturn. Micro Machines V3 is the game that would eventually come out on PlayStation and PC, I think. But yeah, Micro Machines 2 is a fantastic top-down 16-bit racing game. It's fantastic. It's best played in multiplayer. It is one of the best competitive multiplayer games for the 16-bit systems. It just is. It just is. Or you could get Micro Machines 96, which is basically Micro Machines 2, but with an added track creator. Yeah, it's that fucking good. It's a good game. Number 77, Ecstatica. Join the new wave of RPGs. Ecstatica is one of the first games to properly use the powers of CD-ROM, but sadly it's 18 rated. Bugger, eh? I've never heard of this game. I've never heard of Ecstatica. It's by Psygnosis. Huh, no idea. 78. Demolish'em Derby. Demolish'em Derby. I don't think I've ever seen this game called Demolish'em Derby. Was this an actual early development name for the game? Or is this just some bullshit being made up by the magazine? I would not be shocked if this was bullshit made up by this magazine. I'll call it by its actual name, Destruction Derby. Destruction Derby, number 78. Speed is not the name of the game, but smashing up all your opponents' cars. No rules and no set number of laps. There actually is a set number of laps. That's actually not true. There are a set number of laps. It is a racing game where you are intended to come first after a set number of laps. It's just that there are also stages in the game where you have to smash up your opponent's cars. Good game. Not the best in the franchise, but a solid start. Virtua Cop. A blend of Reservoir Dogs and TJ Hooker. This arcade hit will unveil its trigger-slick action on the Saturn this year. Masses of on-screen confusion. Virtua Cop is a classic. It is a classic light gun game. It is a very good port. The Saturn port of Virtua Cop is very good. It's one of the best home ports of any arcade game for the system. Yeah. All I can really say about that. Jumping Flash. After the disappointing Motor Toon GP comes this curious creation featuring the genetic masterpiece. What? The genetic masterpiece. Robbit. Half rabbit, half robot. Okay. I would personally put Jumping Flash much higher on this list, but, you know, hindsight and all. Philosoma. 3 shoot-em-ups on 1 CD. There's a horizontal scroller, a vertical scroller, and a 3D blaster. The difference between this and the classic Raiden conversion is that this switches between all 3 as you play. Ooh, interesting. I don't know if that's a game that came out, at least in Europe, because I've never heard of this game before, and possibly it came out under a different name. I may have to look this up. Ultra Vortex. For the Jaguar. You'll be able to smell the Mortal Kombat aroma in Atari's digitized real people beat-em-up, but it certainly looks better than Kasumi Ninja. Okay, sure. Number 83, Boxer's Road. Ooh, a scary amount of fleshy polygons thumping your face. It's the stuff of nightmares. A superb training mode, down to a full fibre diet and selectable viewpoints. Blimey, it's real. Okay. I don't know if this game came out, or if it came out under a different name. There is a game that came out for the Saturn that looks a lot like this, but I don't remember its name. V-boxing? Virtual boxing? Victory boxing? It might be victory boxing. I don't know. Could be the same game, it might not be. 84. Golden Axe the Duel. Arriving in the arcades on Sega's STV arcade board, this will quickly be able to transfer to Sega's home machine. Golden Axe the Duel is a perfectly okay 2D fighting game. It's not amazing, but it's perfectly okay. It is a perfectly cromulent fighting game from Sega. '85. PO'd. This takes the prize for the funniest of the gaggle of Doom clones run around a futuristic cityscape chasing bums. Yas. Whatever that means. Yas. Y-A-R-S-E. Yas. Don't know what that means. 86. Fatal Fury 3. Latest in a long line of fisting. Okay, buddy. All right, let's just calm it down a bit. The latest in a long line of fisting orgies from the House of SNK. This is sure to sell by the bucket loads, purely by the name alone. The Fatal Fury series is adored in Japan, and this is sure to please. Okay. Mother Base. Which is Zaxxon. It's a Zaxxon sequel. Space shoot 'em up with isometric view polygon ships and robots. A baby bottom smooth animation. It's a strange description you've made there. And a Saturn version is sure to turn up somewhere down the line. No, there was no Saturn port of Mother Base. It came to the 32X and nothing else. Oh, one more. Sorry, Rayman. 88. Yet to see a final version, we need to be convinced about the quality of this strange platformer. Cartoon-like characters rule here. Rayman is fantastic. It is one of the best 2D platformers for both either the Saturn or the PlayStation. The Rayman 1 rules. Rayman 1 is amazing. It's one of the best 2D games of this generation. Holy shit. Okay. There we go. Last page. 89. Daedalus. It's faster than Keyleak. Oh no, this is the game I was talking about. For the Saturn. This is the straight up. Yeah, this is the game on the Sega Saturn that looks almost identical. It's faster than Keyleak the Blood on PlayStation because the whole environment is chillingly dark. Therefore, less data needs to be shunted about as you move. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Daedalus does have a shorter draw distance. But it's still a big robot shooty affair. 90. Immercenary. What is Immercenary? What? For the 3DO. After an FMV-soaked intro, you're launched into a virtual reality world where the locals are tetchy and the bullets don't have smart. What? I'll read that verbatim again. After an FMV-soaked intro, you're launched into a virtual reality world where the locals are tetchy and the bullets don't have smart. What? The bullets don't have smart. Not smarts. Smart. Singular. I don't think this was edited very well. I don't think the copy editor for this magazine did a very good job. Okay. Number 91. SimCity 2000. Who wants to bet they insult SimCity 2000 for being 2D? Who wants to bet? The PC Classic will look the PC Classic will look the cat's whiskers on Sega's machine. There's never been a better way to waste your life. Fucking what? Was that? Okay, yeah, all right. That was the most underhanded insult I've ever read. There's never been a better way to waste your life. Are they implying that playing SimCity is a waste of your time? Like, what? 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 Oh my god, okay. All right, number 92, Gunner's Heaven. It looks like a SNES game, but it plays like a dream. A dream with big guns, even bigger explosions and green hair. So yeah, I did mention before that Gunner's Heaven is in many ways a spiritual successor to Gunstar Heroes. Slam and Jam 93 for the 3DO. Boy. 5-on-5 basketball sim, brimming with all the usual sports sim stuff, multiple camera angles and a CNN match commentary. I don't care. Twin Goddesses. I know this game. I know this game. Cartoon and digitized characters getting it together. There's plenty of kicking, pouting and thrusting fun. So Twin Goddesses is a weird game. It's a story-based fighting game where the main characters, the aforementioned twin goddesses, are digitized actors like Mortal Kombat style, but everything else is like hand-drawn pixel art. And it's weird looking. Also, the game has a shop. There's an in-game shop where you can buy upgrades for your characters. And it's like, wait, what? What? You're playing single-player. I think it's only for single-player mode, but yeah, as you go through single-player mode, after every fight, you go to a shop where you can purchase more powerful moves or more health for your characters as you go through. It's kind of nuts. It's nuts. I don't think this game got released outside of Japan. I want to say Twin Goddesses stayed in Japan. Right. Oh, blimey. Earthworm Jim for the Super Nintendo. Didn't Earthworm Jim for the Super Nintendo not come out by 1995? Really? What? Platform games of the next gen are expected to start appearing thick and fast, and spruced up version of Jimmer. A spruced up version of Jimmer. Jimmer. On the PlayStation X or Saturn would be a good thing. Yeah, Earthworm Jim 2 would eventually come to PlayStation and Saturn. Earthworm Jim 1, I believe, would stay on the Mega Drive and Super Nintendo. No. 96. Fever Pitch Soccer is another fucking football game. Here we go. Imagine Mortal Kombat 2 and FIFA in one game. 8 special guys with their own moves, and a character called Jurgen dives every time you hit the A button. What? Are they implying that there's fighting in this game? I've never heard of this game before, so because fighting's not really a thing in soccer. It's not really a thing. Like, very, very rarely will two players get so pissed off at each other that they will attack each other. It has happened, but it's very rare. Okay. Getting down to the end. Chaotix. The 32X. This is Knuckles Chaotix, I think. Two characters linked by elastic, romping around Sonic-like lands, bigger, better, and faster than all the rest. I'm not a fan of Chaotix. I don't think Chaotix... This is the Knuckles game, isn't it? This is the... Yeah. I don't think Chaotix is a very good game. Some people swear by this game. They say it's like, oh, it's the best game on the 32X. And it's just like... Really? Have you played Fred Couples Golf? I'm only half joking, by the way. Fred Couples Golf is pretty sick. But yeah, I'm personally not a big fan of Chaotix. I'm not into it. 98, Thunder in Paradise. You're a kid, and along with Hulk Hogan, you must destroy missiles heading for Earth. It's based on a US TV series that's taking over from Baywatch because of the brilliant nudie bird count. It's taking over from Baywatch because of the brilliant nudie bird count. They are implying that the show is worth watching because of all the half-naked women. The mid-90s, folks. The mid-fucking-90s. It was a very exciting but very problematic time. 99, Crime Crackers. There are good RPGs and then there are so-so RPGs. I've heard of Crime Crackers. Crime Crackers is interesting. It's a first person RPG. It's like a first person dungeon crawler, but it's kind of wild. It's neat. It's a little bit. It's kind of a one trick pony. You play it for like 30 minutes and you've seen everything it has to offer. It's like, oh, but it's neat. It's a weird game. Crime Crackers. And then, down number 100, Air Cars. Fucking Air Cars. The Jaguar. This ain't what the future is about. Blimey, it's pap. I will agree with them that Air Cars for the Atari Jaguar is garbage. It's a terrible video game that no one should ever play. I would agree with them. That is a terrible fucking video game. Isn't that the game where the "Where did you learn to fly" meme came from? Because I want to say it's Air Cars. I don't remember. There is a game on the Atari Jaguar where you are piloting some kind of aircraft or a spaceship or something, and if you hit any obstacle anywhere, you fly into any obstacle, a little robot lady comes up on the screen and says, "Where did you learn to fly?" in the most monotone voice, and she does it constantly. She will do it as many times as you hit the side of a mountain. If you hit 3 things in quick succession, and she will come up and say the same thing 3 times in a row. It's like, okay, all right, lady, chill the fuck out. And I'm amazed that got onto the list at all. Okay, so yeah, that is the entire article. Top 100 most anticipated games of the future. Future games, as they've called them. I'm going to say, while the writing and the editing was a lot of the time pretty questionable, very questionable in fact, I'm going to say this actually pretty typical of 90s video game journalism. This sort of stuff was pretty common at the time. Game journalists were very dismissive and very rude, and a lot of the time very wrong about the quality of certain games. So yeah, interesting, if a little bit eye-opening times. There's a full page ad for some anime, I don't know, never heard of it before. Weebs were a thing back then too. here we go. Here's a article for the Apple Pippin, Apple's video game console, the thing that never left Japan. That's right, Apple had a video game console that only released in Japan and played such amazing games as Myst and SimCity 2000. I'll end this in a second. We're just going to do a very, very quick flick through to see if there's anything remotely interesting. Jaguar. Look at me in my futuristic VR headset. What? Wow, yeah. The first ever real VR headset, apparently. I fucking doubt it. There's an article for Cyberbots Full Metal Madness. That's a cool game. Mail section, fan mail. More Saturn and PlayStation articles. Import listings. This catalogue listings for various things if you want to buy your consoles from a catalogue instead of a shop for some reason. Usually you might be able to get it a little bit cheaper, but not that much. Oh, cool. Double page spread for the Street Fighter movie. Good stuff. Oh, Zangief, yes. PC does it all, or does it? Article trying to tell you the pros and cons of being a PC gamer. Interesting. Part of me wants to do scans of this magazine, put up scans of it, but I suspect these scans already exist. I suspect that somebody has already done the work. There is a vast resource of scanned old video game magazines. What's it called? Hang on, let's see if I can find it. I'm sure somebody's already done this. If I can find it, I will put up the link to the scan. I've seen this somewhere before. It might just be archive.org. Okay, we've got two results. We've got a web page called Retro Mags. Now let's just bring this up. So we've got a called Retro Mags database, magazine database. Ah, oh, they go by different countries. United Kingdom and United States are clearly the two biggest. So it's Ultimate Future Games. So Ultimate Future Games. Here we go. There's issue 7. Oh my god. Okay, yeah, we've got it. Here it is. I will put the link to this in the video description if you're interested, if you want to read some of this magazine. Holy shit. A lot of these they say missing. You know what? I've got a lot of these. I've got a lot of these magazines. I've got this one. 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 Got this one. And I've got this one. I've got quite a few of these, actually. I've got this one and this one. Yeah, I've got a lot of these Ultimate Future games. Man, maybe I should do some scanning. Uh-oh. Hang on. Let's go down the archive.org list, see if they've got them. Because if they're not available on either... This website's called Retromags, by the way. If they're not available on Retromags or archive.org... Can't see anything. No, begins with the word U, so Ultimate. And the only one here is Ultimate Generation. Is this a subcategory? GV, UGV. No, no. Okay, it's not on archive.org or the or retromags.com. I know for a fact I have many of these issues. Oh my god. I should maybe do some scanning. Oh my god. Okay. So anyway, I will leave a link to scans of this magazine in the video description. Hell, I'll even put it in the comments just in case people don't read the description. And yeah, I will see you soon. Take care of yourselves. I'm the Royal Blue Dragon. Goodbye.